The Horizon Dawn appeared in the deep black of space like a silent ghost. It had been missing for decades, and no one had expected it to return. Commander Liam Carter stood on the bridge, his face calm but eyes alert as he adjusted the controls. The ship had traveled farther than anyone had thought possible, and yet here it was, perfectly intact. The sensors of the frontier station lit up when the ship approached. An officer, Ruby Adams, and engineer Nathan Cole hurried to the docking bay to get a closer look. The moment they saw the Horizon Dawn, a wave of astonishment swept through them. The ship looked new, almost untouched by the years it had spent lost in space. The energy readings from the ship were unusual, far beyond anything human technology could produce. Ruby could hardly believe her eyes as she examined the patterns of light and power flowing across the vessel. Nathan ran his hand over the hull, feeling a hum that seemed alive. The docking procedures were tense. People on the station whispered among themselves, wondering if the crew had changed in some strange way after so many years alone. Liam Carter sent a quiet transmission, asking for permission to dock, and the station personnel hesitated before granting it. The crew moved slowly, as if they were aware of how extraordinary their return was. As the docking clamps engaged, Ruby and Nathan watched with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The Horizon Dawn's airlock opened, and the returning crew stepped out. They were older in some ways, but younger in spirit, and there was a strange calmness about them. No one spoke for a moment. The frontier station had not prepared for this. Ruby took a deep breath and stepped forward to greet the crew. "Welcome back," she said, though her voice trembled slightly. Liam Carter nodded, his expression unreadable, and introduced his crew with quiet dignity. There was no celebration, only a deep sense of wonder. The station was small, with only a few hundred people, but news traveled fast. Soon, messages were sent across human colonies, and everyone wanted to know what had happened to the Horizon Dawn. Rumors began to circulate that the ship might have returned with something unusual, something that could change the understanding of human technology and perhaps the balance of power in space. Ruby and Nathan were assigned to inspect the ship and understand its systems. They walked through corridors that seemed to glow with a faint light, and every surface looked smooth and perfect. It was hard to believe that this was a human-made vessel. There were panels that hummed with energy, displays that showed information and patterns no one had seen before, and the engines seemed to float in place, as if unaffected by gravity. The crew of the Horizon Dawn moved calmly, showing no signs of fatigue or stress. They spoke quietly among themselves in a language that seemed like English, but was slightly different, almost musical. Ruby and Nathan exchanged glances. Something had changed on the Horizon Dawn, something they could not yet understand. Liam Carter noticed their expressions and offered a faint smile. "We have seen much beyond what anyone can imagine," he said softly. "Our journey has brought us to places humans were never meant to see, and we carry knowledge that will test the limits of what you think is possible." The station personnel felt a mix of awe and fear. They wanted answers, but they were not sure if the Horizon Dawn crew could give them. Ruby and Nathan began their work, examining the ship's systems and trying to understand how it had survived for so long. Every discovery was more baffling than the last. There were systems that seemed to operate without fuel, engines that could bend space around them, and data storage that defied known physics. Nathan's hands shook slightly as he took readings. "This is beyond anything we know," he whispered. Ruby nodded. "We need to be careful," she said. "We don't know what else the crew might have brought back with them." Liam Carter watched them quietly, understanding their concern. He knew the technology they had encountered would be dangerous if misused, and he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. The station continued to monitor the ship, and more scientists and officials arrived to see the Horizon Dawn. Everyone was cautious, but curiosity drove them forward. The Horizon Dawn had returned, and with it came the promise of change, the thrill of discovery, and the unknown consequences of knowledge that no one could yet control. As the sun of the frontier station's world rose, casting light across the docking bay, Ruby and Nathan looked at the horizon, Dawn and its crew, and knew that the universe had just opened a door that could never be closed again. The feeling of awe, mixed with fear, stayed with everyone, and the story of the lost ship was only beginning to unfold. Ruby Adams and Nathan Cole stepped onto the Horizon Dawn, feeling the strange hum of the ship beneath their feet. Every surface glowed softly, and the air smelled clean and metallic. Ruby looked at the panels that displayed moving patterns of light and wondered how they worked. Nathan ran his hand along a control console and felt energy vibrate through his fingers. The technology was impossible, yet it was real. Liam Carter led them through corridors that curved in ways that seemed to defy normal engineering. Gravity shifted subtly as they walked, and sometimes it felt as if the floor moved under them. Ruby had to concentrate to keep her balance. They entered the engine room, and Nathan stopped in awe. The engines floated in place, spinning without fuel or any visible source of power. Lights traced their motion like ribbons of energy, and the hum of the ship filled the room. Ruby took samples of the air and readings of the energy fields, trying to understand what kept the ship alive. She could not make sense of the data, yet a strange clarity filled her mind when she focused. Liam noticed her fascination and smiled slightly. "This is only a fraction of what we have," he said. "There is more beyond the systems you see, things humans have never imagined." They moved to the navigation room, where screens showed star systems that had not been charted in decades. Symbols floated above the panels, shifting like living things. Nathan tried to access the logs, but encryption prevented him from reading any of the data. The codes were complex beyond anything human scientists had created. Yet the crew of the Horizon Dawn understood them perfectly. Ruby asked Liam, "How did you survive out there so long?" He looked at her, his eyes calm. "We found something that changed everything," he said. "We traveled to a place beyond normal space, and we learned things that no human was supposed to know." Ruby felt a chill. She wanted to ask more, but the calmness of the crew made her hesitate. There was something different about them, as if they had seen the future and returned unchanged. Nathan frowned as he examined a device that seemed to manipulate gravity. He turned it in his hands and watched the field bend and twist. "This should not be possible," he whispered. "It goes against everything we know." Liam nodded. "It is not meant to be understood yet. Humanity will see it in time." They continued through the ship, and Ruby noticed that the crew moved without the usual signs of stress or fatigue. They ate, slept, and walked, but it was almost as if they needed a little rest. Liam explained that the ship had systems to maintain the crew, feeding them and keeping them healthy in ways humans could not yet achieve. Ruby and Nathan worked together to map the systems, but every measurement raised more questions than answers. The ship responded to their presence, adjusting gravity, light, and temperature subtly. Nathan shivered. "It is alive in a way," he said. Liam nodded. "It is more than a machine. It is a guardian, a keeper of knowledge, and we were chosen to carry it forward." Ruby felt both awe and fear. She could not imagine what humanity could do with this technology, yet she understood Liam's words. It was not just power, it was responsibility. The day passed slowly as they examined more of the ship. Every room revealed wonders, a laboratory that seemed to create materials from nothing, a communication room that reached across light years instantly, and storage areas filled with knowledge in forms they could not read. Liam watched them closely, knowing that humans might misuse what they did not understand. He explained carefully that the ship had rules, that it responded only to those who respected its purpose. Ruby and Nathan realized that the Horizon Dawn was teaching them, testing their intentions and measuring their understanding. That night, as the stars shone through the ship's windows, Ruby sat quietly, thinking about what she had seen. Nathan joined her, holding a device that pulsed softly with energy. "Do you think we are ready for this?" he asked. Ruby shook her head. "I don't know, but we have to try to learn. If this ship can survive out there alone, maybe we can use what it offers to help humanity." Liam appeared silently, standing beside them. He did not speak at first. Then he said, "The universe is bigger than you think. We are only beginning to see the first steps of what is possible. Your work here will shape the future, but you must remember to respect the knowledge you hold." The next morning, Ruby and Nathan continued their inspection. They found systems that could manipulate time in small ways, engines that could fold space, and tools that could create life-sustaining environments anywhere. Each discovery made their minds spin, but they worked carefully, documenting what they could. The Horizon Dawn crew watched, offering subtle guidance but never forcing them. Ruby realized that the ship had chosen them as partners, not servants. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, but she also felt hope. Humanity had returned from the edge of the galaxy with knowledge that could change everything. As the Frontier Station received more transmissions, the news spread that the Horizon Dawn had returned with impossible technology. Some humans were excited, others fearful. Ruby and Nathan knew that the real test had just begun, understanding, controlling, and protecting what they had found. Liam Carter reminded them often, "This is not a weapon, it is a gift. Use it wisely, and humanity will rise. Misuse it, and it could destroy us all." The Horizon Dawn floated silently at the station, its systems humming gently, waiting for the humans to learn, to grow, and to take the next step into a future no one had imagined. Ruby and Nathan worked tirelessly, guided by curiosity, respect, and a sense of duty. Knowing that their discovery was only the beginning of a journey that would define the future of human civilization, the story of the Horizon Dawn slowly unfolded as Ruby and Nathan continued to work alongside the returning crew. Each day brought new revelations, but there were still mysteries that the humans could not solve. Liam Carter invited them to a private area of the ship where the main control room glowed softly with energy. "You must know the truth of our journey," Liam said quietly. "We did not just drift through space. We found a world older than humans, a place built by a civilization that vanished long ago." Ruby listened intently, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. Nathan leaned forward, eager for details. Liam continued, "The planet was full of machines, ancient constructs left behind by its creators. They were dormant at first, but when we arrived, they awakened and studied us." The room seemed to hum with the memory of that encounter, and Ruby felt a chill as she imagined the crew standing before the machines. Liam's voice was calm but serious. "The machines were testing humanity, measuring our character, our intelligence, and our potential. We could have failed, but we did not. They judged us worthy of their unfinished legacy." Nathan swallowed hard, trying to picture what that meant. Ruby asked, "So, you mean they gave you their technology?" Liam nodded. "Yes, but it was not given lightly. We were transformed into custodians, carrying knowledge that humans are not yet ready to understand fully. It is a responsibility as much as a gift." Ruby and Nathan exchanged glances, realizing the weight of what had returned with the Horizon Dawn. The ancient machines had not just provided technology, they had chosen humanity for something greater. Liam explained that the crew had learned to communicate with the machines, to understand their principles, and to harness the energy that powered their systems. The lessons were subtle, and the crew had been changed in ways that went beyond physical abilities. Ruby felt a strange awe, realizing that the calm demeanor of the crew was not just discipline, but the result of profound change. Nathan asked, "Do you think humanity is ready for this knowledge?" Liam shook his head gently. "Not fully. That is why we have returned carefully. We must guide, teach, and protect what we have learned until humanity can understand it without destroying it." Ruby began to see why the High Command had been cautious. The power on the Horizon Dawn was immense, and if misused, it could lead to chaos. She wondered how humans would respond to this responsibility. The crew showed Ruby and Nathan areas of the ship where ancient knowledge was stored in forms that defied logic. Some rooms contained materials that shifted and reshaped themselves, while others displayed energy flows that seemed alive. Liam explained that these were gifts from the machine world, meant to be studied slowly and carefully. "We cannot rush," he said. "The knowledge is alive in a way, and it will test those who try to use it without understanding." Ruby felt a sense of reverence as she moved through the ship. Nathan was equally fascinated, but he also sensed the caution in Liam's words. The Horizon Dawn crew had not just returned with technology. They had returned with a mission, a duty to humanity that required patience and care. Over the next days, Ruby and Nathan watched as the crew demonstrated systems that could manipulate gravity, energy, and even aspects of matter itself. Each demonstration was subtle, almost gentle, designed to teach, rather than impress. Ruby began to understand that the crew's calmness was a result of their transformation. Their minds aligned with the principles of the ancient machines. Nathan found himself drawn to the energy systems. Experimenting carefully and noting how the ship responded to intention and thought, Liam observed, offering guidance, but never intervening directly. "The ship will respond to those who respect it," he said. "Force or impatience will only create errors." Ruby realized that the Horizon Dawn itself was a teacher, a living archive that required understanding rather than control. She felt a new respect for the crew, recognizing that they had been changed more profoundly than anyone could imagine. Nathan nodded, understanding that the technology they were witnessing was not just tools, but a way to see the universe differently. The Horizon Dawn crew shared stories of their time among the ancient machines, describing how they had faced tests of courage, intelligence, and morality. Each test had pushed them to the limits of their understanding, and only by learning and adapting had they survived. Ruby and Nathan listened in silence, realizing that the Horizon Dawn's return was more than a homecoming. It was a message, a challenge for humanity to grow and evolve. As the frontier station received news of the ship's discoveries, officials became increasingly curious and cautious. They wanted access to the technology, but Liam insisted that they could not hand over knowledge that humans were not ready to use wisely. Ruby saw the tension growing, understanding that fear could easily lead to conflict. She also saw that the Horizon Dawn crew had the wisdom to guide humanity without letting it be consumed by greed. One evening, as the station's sun set, Ruby walked with Liam on the ship's observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and Ruby felt both small and inspired. "How did you manage to stay human after all this?" she asked. Liam looked at the stars and then at her. "We have changed, but we remain human in thought and choice. The machines gave us abilities, but they also taught us responsibility. That is what keeps us grounded." Ruby nodded, realizing that humanity had only begun to glimpse what was possible. Nathan joined them, holding a small device that floated and shifted in the air. He watched the way it responded to Liam's touch, learning that the ship's technology required trust and patience. The Horizon Dawn floated silently, waiting for humans to learn, to grow, and to step into a larger destiny. Ruby and Nathan worked tirelessly, guided by curiosity, caution, and respect. Knowing that each day brought them closer to understanding the true nature of the ship and the legacy it carried. They knew that the Horizon Dawn's return was not just an event, but a turning point. Humanity had been offered a glimpse of what lay beyond their current knowledge. It was up to them to rise to the challenge without fear. The ancient technology, the calm and changed crew, and the lessons of responsibility all formed a new path. Ruby felt hope and awe, realizing that the Horizon Dawn was not just a ship, but a bridge to a future that humans could barely imagine. And she knew that their journey was only beginning. Tensions began to rise at the frontier station as more officials and scientists arrived to see the Horizon Dawn and its crew. They were fascinated by the technology, but fear and doubt filled the air. Ruby Adams and Nathan Cole continued their work, documenting the ship's systems and learning from the crew. Liam Carter remained calm, guiding them but not forcing anything. He understood the fears of the human officials and knew that patience was essential. The High Command wanted access to the ship's technology immediately, but Liam refused. He explained that the knowledge was powerful and dangerous if misused. Ruby watched the discussions from a distance, realizing that some humans could not see beyond their desire for control. Nathan noticed the strain on Ruby's face and said, "We have to show them that this is more than a weapon." Ruby nodded, understanding that it was a delicate balance. The Horizon Dawn crew began to demonstrate some of the technology in small, controlled ways. Gravity fields could lift heavy objects effortlessly, and energy shields could protect sections of the station from harm. The officials watched in awe, but some still doubted that humanity could handle such power. Ruby felt a sense of frustration and responsibility. She knew that the crew had been changed by the ancient machines, and that ordinary humans might not be ready for the knowledge they carried. Liam spoke to the officials, emphasizing patience and understanding. "We are not here to take power from humanity, but to guide it," he said. The Horizon Dawn carries tools and knowledge, but it requires respect and care. Nathan experimented with some of the ship's devices under Liam's supervision. He learned quickly, understanding that the technology responded to intention and thought rather than brute force. Ruby watched him and realized that humans could adapt, but only if they approached the ship with humility. The High Command grew impatient, and tensions reached a breaking point. Some wanted to seize the ship by force, believing that the technology should be controlled immediately. Ruby and Nathan knew that such actions could lead to disaster. Liam addressed the situation calmly, explaining the dangers of misuse. "The ship has rules, and it will not bend to force or fear," he said. "Only understanding and respect will allow its power to be used safely." Ruby began to understand the depth of responsibility carried by the Horizon Dawn crew. They had been tested by the ancient machines and had learned the importance of careful guidance. Humans had not yet faced the same challenges, and impatience could lead to failure. As the days passed, Ruby and Nathan worked closely with the crew to demonstrate controlled uses of the technology. They showed how the ship could create life-sustaining environments, repair damaged systems, and protect the station from harm. The officials began to see that the Horizon Dawn's power was not a weapon, but a tool for growth and exploration. Despite these efforts, tensions persisted. Some humans feared losing control, while others were eager to claim the technology for personal gain. Ruby felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her. Knowing that the future of humanity could hinge on the choices made in those days, one evening, Ruby walked with Liam on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and Ruby felt a mixture of awe and concern. "Do you think humanity is ready for this?" she asked. Liam looked at the stars and then at her. "Not yet fully, but they can learn. It is up to us to guide them without letting fear or greed take over." Nathan joined them, holding a small device that floated gently in the air. He demonstrated how it could respond to thought and intention. Showing the crew and officials that the ship required trust rather than control, Ruby realized that the Horizon Dawn crew had become mediators between humanity and the unknown technology. Their calm and wisdom were necessary to prevent chaos and to help humans grow. The frontier station began to adapt, creating areas where controlled experiments with the technology could take place. Ruby and Nathan led some of these efforts, teaching humans to respect the principles that the Horizon Dawn had brought back. Liam continued to observe, offering guidance and ensuring that lessons were learned carefully. Slowly, some officials began to understand the importance of patience and respect. They saw that the Horizon Dawn's crew was not a threat, but a bridge to a future that humans could not yet fully grasp. Ruby felt hope as she watched people begin to work together, guided by curiosity and caution rather than fear and greed. Nathan shared her sense of optimism, realizing that progress was possible if humans approached the technology wisely. Despite the small victories, Ruby knew that the situation remained fragile. Fear and desire for control could always return, and the Horizon Dawn crew had to remain vigilant. Liam reminded them often that the journey was only beginning, and that responsibility must always come before power. Ruby and Nathan worked tirelessly, documenting systems, teaching others, and ensuring that the ship's knowledge was handled with care. The Horizon Dawn floated silently above the station, its energy humming gently, a constant reminder of the responsibility and potential it carried. Ruby realized that humanity was being given a rare chance to grow, to learn, and to step into a larger destiny. It was not a gift to be taken lightly, and she understood that their work would shape the future for generations to come. Nathan looked at the stars, feeling both fear and excitement. "We are standing at the edge of something bigger," he said. Ruby nodded, knowing that he was right. The Horizon Dawn had returned with knowledge and responsibility beyond anything humans had imagined. It was up to them to rise to the challenge, guided by the calm and wisdom of the crew, and to ensure that the future they built was one of growth, understanding, and hope. The Horizon Dawn floated silently above the frontier station, its energy pulsing gently, as if aware of the approaching events. Ruby Adams and Nathan Cole worked alongside the returning crew, documenting systems and teaching others to use the technology with care. The High Command had begun to accept that control could not be forced and that understanding and patience were essential. One morning, alarms blared across the station. Sensors detected an incoming fleet of alien ships, hostile and fast, moving directly toward the station. The officials panicked, realizing that the Horizon Dawn carried technology they would want to seize for themselves. Ruby and Nathan watched the Horizon Dawn crew calmly prepare. Liam Carter activated the ship's defensive systems. The engines responded immediately, energy fields shimmering around the station. The aliens approached, their weapons charged, and it became clear that they sought the technology that had returned with the Horizon Dawn. Ruby felt fear, but also determination. Nathan stood beside her, ready to assist as the crew coordinated defenses. The Horizon Dawn glowed brighter, and its shields expanded, covering the station and protecting the people below. The alien ships fired, but the energy fields absorbed and redirected the attacks harmlessly into space. Ruby and Nathan marveled at the ship's power, realizing that this was a test of both the technology and humanity's ability to trust and work together. The alien fleet pressed harder, but Liam and his crew used the ship's impossible systems to create illusions, confusing the attackers and forcing them to maneuver cautiously. Ruby assisted in relaying commands and ensuring that the station's personnel remained calm and organized. Nathan focused on analyzing the alien ships, learning patterns and helping the Horizon Dawn anticipate their moves. Hours passed, and the battle continued without loss to the station. The alien forces finally withdrew, unable to breach the combined defenses of the Horizon Dawn and the human crew. Ruby and Nathan breathed deeply, relief washing over them. The station had survived, and humanity had proven capable of using the technology responsibly, at least in a crisis. Liam addressed the people on the station. Today, we have seen what can be achieved when knowledge is used wisely and courage guides action, he said. The Horizon Dawn is not a weapon to be taken lightly, but a guide to show humanity what is possible. Ruby felt pride in the people around her. Seeing scientists, officials, and crew members working together to protect the station. Nathan smiled, realizing that the lessons of patience and respect had been learned, at least in part, through necessity. After the attack, discussions with High Command changed. They recognized the value of cooperation and the importance of guiding humanity rather than controlling it. Ruby and Nathan helped establish programs to teach responsible use of the technology and to study the ship's systems safely. Liam reminded them often, the Horizon Dawn carries knowledge, but knowledge is not power without wisdom. You must always remember this. Days later, the frontier station prepared for a new journey. The Horizon Dawn was ready to leave. Leading a small expedition to explore ancient sites and recover more knowledge left by the creators of the machine world, Ruby, Nathan, and a few others were chosen to accompany the crew. The people of the station gathered to watch, understanding that this mission marked a turning point for humanity. Liam addressed them before departure. We are going to places humans have never reached, to learn and bring back knowledge that will help all of us grow. This is the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. Ruby felt excitement and a sense of duty as she stepped onto the ship. Nathan followed, carrying equipment for study and exploration. The Horizon Dawn activated its engines, bending space and lifting gracefully into the void. Stars stretched into lines of light as the ship accelerated, carrying its passengers into the unknown. Ruby looked around at the crew, seeing calm, determination, and wisdom in their eyes. Nathan smiled, ready for the adventure and the lessons that lay ahead. The frontier station faded behind them, and the Horizon Dawn led its small expedition into distant reaches of the galaxy. Ruby and Nathan realized that humanity's role had expanded beyond the frontier, and that the future held challenges, discoveries, and responsibilities beyond imagination. The ship's energy pulsed softly, a reminder that it was alive in its own way, responding to the intentions of those aboard. Liam stood at the helm, guiding the ship with a steady hand, and Ruby felt hope. Humanity had survived, learned, and grown. The Horizon Dawn and its crew had returned, bringing impossible technology, lessons of responsibility, and a chance for humanity to rise to a destiny greater than any had imagined. Ruby and Nathan knew that this was only the beginning, and that the universe awaited their exploration, filled with knowledge, wonder, and the promise of a future built with care, courage, and wisdom.